What's up, losers? I am Luke, and this is Luke Loses. Now, when I say loser, I say it with love. It's a positive, because we are losing the weight, losing the unhealthy lifestyle, and losing that negative image we have for ourselves. I don't have any fitness or nutrition education. Everything I talk about is from asking people questions, searching the internet, and my own personal experience. You can always go to my website. It is lukeloses.carrd.co. That is CARRD.co. On there, you'll be able to find the links to all my social media as well as other locations you can find this podcast. My email is also on there. Please feel free to message me with topics, tips on weight loss, or if you have any questions. I will message back to whoever I get messages from. It just may take me some time. Now, let's get into episode 6. Welcome back. I hope everyone is doing well. In this episode, I'm going to talk about my first month of changes and the weeks leading up to it. So, in the beginning of August, I was at a point of being content with being miserable. I was okay with being unhappy, and I have given up. So for a while, I had been waking up with horrible headaches, and I did some research, and they were saying it was either high blood pressure, sleep apnea. There was tons of other things, but those were two that kept popping up. I was super lazy around the house. I really didn't do a whole lot. I played a lot of video games, hours a day, and it was like I was playing those games to replace the life that I had. I was more happy in the video game world than I was in my real life. Now, these next two are a little bit hard for me to talk about, but I'm going to talk about them. My marriage was really rocky. I was distant and lazy in the relationship. I never really wanted to spend time with the family. Now, don't get me wrong. I loved my family. I love my kids. I love my wife, but I was very selfish, and the views of myself constantly made my wife and I argue. She told me time and time again, if I was 500 pounds and healthy, it's not an issue, but when it affects our life and my life as a dad, she has an issue with that. I know that's no way to have a relationship where I pictured myself as Jabba the Hutt, and that was it. I was more just there than being a part of it. I was just here and passing day by day. And touching on the relationship with my kids, I refer to myself as a couch dad, or I would sit on the sideline and watch them play. And I never really took part in stuff, even little things like them asking me to come in their bedroom and look at something. I wouldn't want to get up. I was just so lazy, and I don't know. Talking about this and looking back at it, it's like, why did I allow that? Why was I okay with that? It's bringing up some emotion, so sorry about that. So anyway, I made a doctor's appointment in mid-August, I believe it was. I got on the scale at 420 pounds. The doctor ordered blood work, a sleep test, and put me on some new medication for my blood pressure and a couple other things. I didn't do any of the test. I just went home and put it out of my mind and just hoped for the best. You know, I took the step. I went to the doctor. If there was an issue, they would have told me right there. I had a follow-up in mid-September, and when I got on the scale, I was 422 pounds. And it was to check up on the tests that I didn't do and to see how the meds were working. She had recommended me looking into some Facebook groups for binge eating. I shrugged it off, and I was asking for medication to help me lose weight. She told me that I'm not a candidate because I have such high blood pressure. So I slept on it for a week or so, and then I looked up those Facebook groups. Around the 2nd of October, I started counting my calories, and in one day, I ate 7,370 calories. For those that don't understand calories, that is a ridiculous amount. An app that I'm using says I should be at 2,500 calories a day to lose 2 pounds a week, ideally. So for me to be doing 7,300, all I was doing was gaining weight. I wasn't staying at this. I was just getting bigger and bigger. That was part of the wake up where I knew I couldn't just coast doing this. I was just going to get bigger and bigger until my heart gave out or my body gave out. And after all that, just something clicked, and I knew I wanted my wife, I wanted my kids, and I wanted to live my life. I wanted to have a life. So on October 4th, I decided to change everything. I was going to make the doctor's appointments. I was going to start eating right. I was going to do work around the house, be a better dad, be a better husband, everything. I wanted to change everything from that moment on. Well, I made an appointment to get my blood work done. I did the sleep test. And on the 7th of October, I took the first picture of myself with my shirt off. That following Monday, I decided that was the day I was going to start writing down my weight. Now, I weigh myself daily, and I know I shouldn't, but every Monday I write it down and document it. I started looking online and reaching out to doctors to see what my options are. What I decided to do was drop my calories from over 7,000 a day to 1,500 to 1,800. I started listening to different podcasts and watching YouTube videos. The groups that I joined on Facebook, I started posting in to hold myself accountable. And it worked. My head was there. I surrounded myself with these things about weight loss, updates from people, and just I flooded everything I have with positive things and weight loss. So I ended that week. It was October 12th. I did a weigh-in, and I was 405 pounds. So I was losing, and that's awesome. So seeing that weight drop just pushed me that much harder. I did start to become grumpy because I was hungry. I did continue my low-calorie intake, but I was hungry all the time. I did start walking, and I decided to quit eating past 8 p.m. just because I've always seen that you shouldn't eat late. I decided to put that in play. After doing research, I believe that I had a food addiction and these other issues with food that I spoke about in my last episode. October 19th, I was 399 pounds. And the whole time I've been watching these videos on YouTube about weight loss and listening to podcasts and Instagram. I was following people that could give me motivation. I sat down on the couch and I turned on the TV, and 600 Pound Life was on. I started binge watching every episode of that just for that extra motivation, that push. You know, these people are going through it. I can do it. Let's do it, you know. I spoke to a friend who is a personal trainer and asked him to come up with a lifting routine for me. I ended up joining a gym, but I was too nervous to do anything but cardio. I would get in, do 15, 20, 30 minutes of cardio, and walk out. Didn't talk to anybody. I just wanted to get out of there as fast as possible. I decided to start posting on Instagram to keep myself a little bit more accountable. If I'm putting it out there and people are seeing it, it would be harder for me to quit. And after doing more research, I realized I was restricting my calories, and that wasn't good. So I bumped my calorie intake from that 1,500 to 1,800 up to 2,000 to 2,500. That week, I also decided to start seeing a therapist to get my head right since I was trying to work on everything. If you don't see a therapist, I highly recommend it. Somebody outside of your circle that you can talk to makes a huge difference. I can talk to anybody in my life, but when I talk to my therapist, it's different. I highly recommend it. And to end that week, I found the 12-step program on Facebook for people who had issues with food. So October 26th, I was 393 pounds. That week, I had my first visit with my therapist. I did it on a video chat. It was emotional, but it was amazing. I ended up getting that workout routine from my friend, and I ended up going to a meeting for that 12-step program, the first meeting that I had been to. I got a journal and I started writing, and that's another first for me. Like, I've never been somebody who wrote, but I decided to start recording my journal entries instead of writing, because the reason I never wrote is because I hate writing. I started doing that in the form of a podcast. I ended up that week losing 1 pound. So that was it for my first month. I lost a total of 28 pounds. Through it all, I was excited. I was ready to do it. I was nervous because I was scared to fail, because I've failed so many times before trying to start to lose weight. You know, like, I think of that first month as such a big step, and it's got so much going on. If you can make it through that, you can continue. And all the changes that I put in place terrified me. To me, they were huge changes. I mean, they were. The 7,000 calories down to 1,500. That is ridiculous. But looking back, all the changes that I did put in place weren't huge changes. They weren't unachievable. They were totally doable. Now, I did have some times where I was very irritable and cranky. My wife pulled me aside and said, "Listen, you're being a jerk. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if you're hungry. I don't know if you're tired, whatever, but lock it up." And it took me about 10 minutes, but I cooled down. I realized what I was doing, and I moved forward. So in that time, I picked up some hobbies. Like, I started doing digital artwork on the computer. I'm not very good at it, but it's something that keeps me occupied. And since then, I've picked up a ton more hobbies. So all the downtime that I have just is full of different things that I can do. I did have to force myself out of the kitchen a lot. I did find myself walking into the kitchen, looking into cupboards, looking in the refrigerator, and just checking out the food. Ideally, I should have threw all that out, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. I did, once I forced myself out, I was good. But every time that I had to walk into the kitchen, it was a struggle. Now, as for my relationship with my kids, I absolutely love it, and I cannot wait to see where I go with it. I'm way more into spending time with them. I'm laying on the floor, playing with cars, setting up these tracks or whatever they want me to do. They want to go outside. I try to make time, go out there and do it. Like an example, 2 weeks ago or a week ago, my middle child and my wife wrote a script. My middle child kept talking about, "I want to write a movie. I want to write a movie." So they did. And we went out and I filmed it and then I edited it. And it was a blast. I would have never done that. I would have probably sat in the house and watched them through the window. But now it's amazing. I absolutely love my time with them. As for my wife and I, we are doing great. My self-image does come up, but it's very rare. I see myself in a mirror now and I think positive thoughts. There have been some times where I spiraled into that negative thinking, but for the most part, it's all positivity. We both contribute into the relationship. Before, it was probably 80-20, where she was 80%, I was 20. Coming into this, I knew I wanted to do a 50-50 relationship, but we are far from that. It's definitely 100-100. We both give our all, and I feel like our relationship has never been better. That's all I have. That is my first month and the weeks leading up to it. So I am going to step on the scale right here, and we will see the number together for the first time. Here we go. It says 368. So that is 2 pounds down from last week, which is good. I'm coming off of 8 pounds the last 2 weeks. but I will take 2 pounds. I'm happy with that. Thanks for listening. I really appreciate it. And if you enjoyed this episode, if you could subscribe and leave a review. But one thing I would really like you to do is if you know somebody who struggles with their weight or their self-image or anything that I talk about, just point them in the direction of this podcast. I really want to help. I know what it's like to struggle, and I'm nowhere near better now, but I want to be able to help people so they don't have to go through the things that I went through. Again, you can check out my website. It is lukeloses.card.co. That is CARRD.co. Check out my Instagram. Send me an email if there's anything that you want to talk about. If you have topics for me to talk about, if you have tips or pointers, whatever it may be, don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you. Trust the process. Do the work. And I will see you next week.